Welcome to Business Playmakers, the podcast that meets with innovators, trailblazers, and leaders to learn about their experience and what success really means. Hosted by entrepreneur and leadership coach Kyle Gorman.
Business Playmakers is presented by the Employer Blueprint. Employer Blueprint is dedicated to management and leadership development through one-on-one coaching and group seminars. You can find free resources from Employer Blueprint through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And for more information, simply visit employerblueprint.com. Hello, Business Playmakers. This is your host, Kyle Gorman, and I had a great time sitting down with today's guest and today's business playmaker, Chip Pride. Chip is a good friend. We've known each other for several years, but really developed a friendship over the last few years through some business dealings and coaching dealings and youth sports and things of the sort. Chip has had a very respectable career that we'll get to talk about on today's episode, but he's also the ultimate family man. He and his wife have 4 kids, and I've had the opportunity to coach a couple of his boys in sports, from baseball and football, and I can tell you firsthand he's done a great job in raising those young men. They're good young men, hardworking young men, and I attribute a lot of that to Chip and his wife Amy and what they've done and how they've raised their family. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Here's Chip. Well, Chip, I really appreciate you being on today. Appreciate you joining the podcast and joining the show. You and I have had an opportunity to know each other. I guess technically we've known each other for 10 years, 12 years time, probably. But really got to know each other kind of personally and professionally within about the last 4 or 5 years. And it's certainly been a joy to do that. So I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to kind of share some information that you and I talk about with others. So as we jump right in here, let's just kind of help the listeners understand and walk us through your professional experience.
Okay. Well, Kyle, as you know, currently I'm a commercial loan officer for Independence Bank, local regional bank. I've been in banking about half my career, but on my entire career, I've always been involved with customer contact. I've sold commercial printing inside and outside. I've been a professional fundraiser. I've been a retail banker. I've been a commercial banker. I've worked in a restaurant. All of those things that I've done have all dealt with dealing with the public.
Can we back up just real quick?
Sure.
Tell us about the restaurant that you worked in.
I worked at a Ponderosa Steakhouse when I was going to college, and been in college 2 months.
Did you work in any restaurants in high school, Chip?
In high school, yeah, I was a car hop.
Okay, there we go.
I was a car hop at a local drive-in type place, root beer place, and again, dealing with the public. Building relationships with people. It may be as short as taking an order for a burger and a root beer, but doing things with a smile and doing things with a happy heart and doing things with a great attitude. Those are all things you have to have when you're dealing with the public for a sustained period of time. And I've been doing that since I was in high school, in college, and then professionally. Just about every day I deal with customers, both internally and externally.
Yeah.
Nice job of you sneaking in that car hop experience.
Whenever you mentioned restaurant, I felt like we needed to bring that up. That you had experience as a car hop.
Yeah.
So, and you had mentioned you've been in banking for nearly half your career.
Yeah, probably on the retail side 6 years, on the commercial side about 4 years, and then the back office and marketing, customer service, training, probably 4 years there too.
Okay.
So. Several different roles, large, multi-billion-dollar banks, small regional banks. The bank I work for now is about a $2 billion bank with a pretty good-sized commercial staff. And I'm a member of that team.
Good. So along the way, through your career, have you had any mentors that you've looked up to that you felt like have sort of directed or led you?
Yeah, I've always tried to identify with people that I see that are in my business or line of business that are successful. And when I say successful, they seem to be in control. They seem to be doing what is expected. They hit those benchmarks. They are cool under pressure. They engage well with others. There's all kinds of ways to measure success. Some of those have been my direct bosses. Some of those have been coworkers. Some of those have been people outside of the industry that I'm in. Probably one of the things I didn't do a good job of early was trying to identify a mentor and what that mentor-mentee relationship is about. Right now, one of my best mentors I've had is probably my current boss, because he does things well that I don't necessarily do well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really good delivering good news. Hey, your loan's approved, or you're making your payments on time. He's really talented at delivering the not so good news.
Yeah.
Your loan's not approved, or we need you to do this, or you've got to make your payments now. He's helped me better my skill set in being a better negotiator, being a better bearer of, quote, bad news or not so popular news, dealing better with those conflict situations. So I've gotten a lot from that mentor-mentee relationship. Other things that I look for might be an online resource or something on LinkedIn or something, in an email blast, trying to glean out that good information.
Right.
Another mentor that I've got in the organization I work in now, I've worked with him on a couple different occasions. Great motivator, always positive attitude, even when things aren't going your way.
Yeah.
We're in it together. This is the steamroll. Let's get on board right here and roll our sleeves up, get the work done that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Great positive attitude. I kind of will draw some energy from that when we're working on a situation.
Yeah, that's great. What through the course of your career, have you had any moments that you would identify or define as a big win, or any kind of pinnacle peak moments for you that you've experienced that really resonate?
Yeah, having a diverse career and reinventing yourself a couple times from industry to industry, starting out in banking, then going into the nonprofit world, and then going back into a commercial situation where you're selling on a business-to-business relationship. I've had to reinvent myself. I've had to learn new industries 2 or 3 times. And I think that's a big win, showing that you've got some flexibility, you've got some skill sets that you can take to different industries. Learning a real technical industry like printing. It's very technical and can be, there's so many options out there that you have to learn about. Going back into banking, and again, learning the different roles inside of banking, whether it's a back office or it's retail lending or commercial lending or it's, the deposit side, or dealing with employees and being a first-time manager. I think those are all wins along the way. There's been some big deals that I've dealt with, whether it's selling or getting a donation. Those are certainly wins that I would track on the scoreboard. Whether it's raising money for a big project and seeing that project through, or it's developing a new relationship with a customer and seeing those dollars go to the bottom line. Those are certainly big wins too. That I've experienced in the time that I've been a professional salesperson, relationship builder.
Yeah. And what about any moments that you've had, kind of talk about the peaks, maybe the valleys, or a failed moment in your career that you just think, probably learned some lessons from that, never going to forget it, but man, I really should have done that different. Yeah,
Kyle, I think one of the hard things for somebody that is in the business of starting relationships, getting people to sign on the dotted line, is to understand that some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? It's hard for me as an individual to remember that so what in there, and then carrying into who's next.
Right.
I've taken it pretty hard when a deal may have not gone our way, where maybe somebody left a banking relationship for whatever it may be. Maybe it's price, maybe it's location. I've always been in a situation where there's always been competition. Pretty stiff competition in banking or in the other sales roles that I've had. And that's probably been something that's hardest for me to overcome. I don't know that it's a failure more than it's a learning experience, is knowing that, well, this deal didn't go through, let's go out and find the next one. Let's be aggressive in going out and find the next one. I can think of some deadlines that I've had that I've come up against before that have really pushed me to the edge, whether it It'd be trying to meet a customer request, or overcommitting and or over-promising and not coming through on those things, and just coming right down to the edge and making those things happen. Those are some learning experiences. Understand that you got to get an early start on things. You can't over-promise and under-deliver. You want to under-promise and over-deliver. Sure. So those are some definite learning experiences along the way. And not getting over-committed, learning to say no to some things, not only in the office, but outside of the office in the community. I've always been pretty involved in the community.
Absolutely.
And I think oftentimes you can get over-committed, because when you say yes to one thing, people will identify that and they'll come to you for other projects.
Yeah. What does success mean to you? How do you define success?
Well, I find it hard to just pinpoint one thing that I would say success is. In my current job, when somebody comes back to me for a second opportunity, I think that's a success.
Absolutely.
When somebody comes to me from a referral from another customer, I think that's a real success. I think success, there's an old saying that success is a journey, it's not a destination that you get to. I think that's important. Just when I've had this experience, whether it's been on weight loss or it's been on personal finance, when you think you've got it all together, that's when you realize you really don't. I feel like, this is a pinnacle or this is a zenith, and it's like, gosh, this is right where I want to be, and then the next thing that comes down the road is a setback. I try to think about wins along the way. The question you had earlier, those wins, the little wins you've had, compound those together in a successful journey. Whether it's an education that you've garnered along the way, it's a deal with a customer, it's the relationship you built with a coworker. Another thing that I think successful, I don't work for myself. I work for an organization. When I've gone in there and felt like I've had a great productive day and developed some new relationships, or gotten some things pushed along, or learned some things I didn't know before that will benefit the company, I think those are successful moments. Kyle, I know you're a family man, as am I, and when you can transfer some of those on to the next generation, some of those things, I think that's a real successful moment. Being able to educate your kids and try to see them on the same path to measure success. And there's financial successes along the way, and as my career has changed, I've financially had success, but that's not been the main driver behind what I'm doing.
What would you say if you were to pick one main driver? What do you think that would be?
I think it's to be a part of a great team, to be a part of a great organization that can provide great results to customers. That's what I'm doing now. We have a great team. What I do, and I would think we are the premier institution in our market, in our markets, and I'm proud to be a part of that team. And when I can help a customer in their business by providing financing or deposit solutions for them or banking solutions for them, then I feel like I'm a success. I feel like I feel like that's an opportunity for me to win.
And if we were to take a snapshot of today, or this week, or this month, this period in your life, this season of life, maybe, would you say you have been successful if you were to take the snapshot today?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a long-term journey. It's a long-term process. But I think to this point, I've been successful. I've been successful in several industries. One of the cool things I think about my career path, I've not applied for many jobs. I've had employers seek me out because of the reputation that I've got in the community, because of the reputation I've got in a certain industry. And where I work, Kyle, I didn't grow up in that location, so I've had to develop those relationships. So I think I would measure what I've done to date. If you would put it on a timeline, I would say I would measure it as a successful timeline to point, and with goals on moving that timeline out and continuing that success.
And what are some keys that you can kind of point to that have given you the level of success you've achieved so far? What keys and metrics have you looked at?
I think one thing, you never don't be afraid to take on a new responsibility. Don't be afraid to take on a new role. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. I've gone from the nonprofit world back into the for-profit world. I've gone from being a regional producer. I've gone from being just a local, going from retail banking into commercial banking. It's just different lines of business that I've dealt with, and I've never been afraid to either apply for a job or listen to an opportunity. I think that's very important, being able to take a risk within your career and maybe change jobs or change industries. So I think that's certainly not necessarily a talent or a trait that you have to have, but I think that's one thing. And then another thing I think is the education piece of it. It may not be a degree, it may not be a college program, but maybe it's a book, or it's a magazine article you read about the particular industry you're in, or it's a person, it's a contact you make that can provide you good information, somebody to bounce questions off of. You're always going to have questions. One thing that I have goes back a long way. There's always somebody out there that's either going to know more about a subject than you do, or that's going to have a different experience than you've had. Right. So I think those are things you need to look for, whether it's that self-educating, that continual education along the way.
Let's look forward a little bit. So have you thought about what do the next 10 years look like for you professionally?
I think that my career will continue to evolve. I think as my skill set continues to evolve, I'll continue to be attractive to the organization that I'm working for. I think that right now, I've managed people in the past, Kyle. Right now, I don't manage anyone other than myself. I think that I'll have an opportunity to manage others in the future. So I think that's a skill set I have developed and will need to continue to develop. I think the more you're with an organization, the more responsibility you'll get, whether it's your main business function or it's other things that come up along the way. I've done some things in my career that have put me on special committees or special task force or projects. I think those are good learning opportunities, good career building opportunities. So over the next 10 years, I think that the responsibility can increase. I think the reward can increase, and definitely the education has to increase, or I don't think those other two things will happen.
They don't fall into place.
Probably one of the things that I can continue to work on is learning to take more risks, whether it's a cold call on a customer or it's learning more about an industry or those type things. So,
something I like to ask is because I think it's interesting how different people look at this, but I know you're still a few years away from maybe even considering what retirement is going to be for you, but how do you define retirement? What do you think that looks like for you in your life?
My father is retired now for the third time. So he's an educator, career-long educator, had reached the pinnacle of local school education, being a superintendent. He retired from that. He went back to that. He retired again. He now is a consultant and helps schools do their management function. And I think that's a neat look at retirement. It gives you some flexibility to do the things you want to do with family or travel, but it also keeps your mind sharp. My wife and I both are very engaged in our community, and I think we're going to continue to be engaged in our community. We want to travel and do some things, and one of the things we like to do is go to ball games, so I can see us hopping in a vehicle and doing some weekend trips for ball games and things. We've got several children. I have 4 children, and I hope to be able to travel and spend time with them wherever they choose to be, whether it's here locally or. And I hope it's a time to relax and not have deadlines. And I've heard people say every day's a Saturday, and Saturdays are good and Sundays are good. I'd like to have a lot of those. But we'll be active. I feel that we'll be active, whether it's in our church, our community, with our family. There's a lot of, I'm in banking, so there's a lot of guys that are on our board, men and ladies that are on our board that are retired bankers that are still involved in the relationship building process.
Right.
So I would like to do something like that too.
Still find a way to be involved. what does life look like for you? What do you do if you win $1 million this afternoon?
Well, that'd be great. I'd probably pay off our debt. That'd be number one.
Yeah.
We'd certainly support our favorite nonprofits.
Yeah.
Would be number one, and that's not just a token. That's what you're supposed to say. We do that now. We'd pay off our debt. I think there's some business things that we would like to take some risks with. As I mentioned, we have several children, and we've put some money. We put all our money towards them right now, trying to get them educated and grown up. But there's some business things that I think we would put some money behind and take some risk and do some things there. The government's going to get a big piece of that. It's not $1 million. Not going to let me quit my job tomorrow. So I'd still work, and Amy would still work, and kind of be a little breathing room, if you will.
Yeah, a little cushion.
Yeah.
A great answer from a banker that, $1 million isn't really $1 million. Yeah.
But it
certainly helps.
It will certainly help.
Yeah. So, I like to take this opportunity also to look at how we can help others, just based on what you've been able to experience in your life, how we can kind of help others understand and identify where they are. So the first thing I'd like to ask is, what are some characteristics, if you could think to your favorite boss through the course of your career, what are some characteristics of that person that attracts you to that person, the personality traits that you look to and look towards?
I think a good listener is important. The bosses that I've had along the way that have gotten the most out of me have been good listeners, have been challenging, have been good motivators, have not given you all the things to do. They'll get you started and let you fill in the gaps.
Right.
Let you kind of expand your skill set, push your limits. Those have been the people that I've gotten the most out of that boss-employee relationship.
Yeah.
When I was a manager of folks, that's what I tried to do with my people, is tried to get them to expand their skill set as you give them the reins a little bit, as you delegate things to them. The things that maybe those characteristics that are my least favorite, that would be kind of a domineering type person, or just overbearing micromanagement. I think there's time for close management of an employee, but I don't know that it for me in my career path, it's not been my favorite type of management.
Yeah.
And I think going back to the $1 million question for a minute, I think one of the things that's important is having a plan. Somebody that's a planner. A boss has to be somebody that's a planner, somebody that has a plan when things aren't going to go the way they're supposed to, because they don't.
No, they're not.
They don't always happen the way you're supposed to. So do you have a plan for when an emergency happens? Do you have a plan for, when I was managing folks, it was in the retail setting, and the schedule was always a big thing.
Sure.
What happens when somebody doesn't show up, or somebody calls in, or things happen and you need more people? What's your plan? What's your plan going to be? So I think that's important for being a supervisor, being a boss, if you will, and being an employee. You have to have a great plan, or a business owner. You have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And, my line of business, one of the things I meet with on business owners is, what's the plan for your business? Where are you going next? What are you doing now? And I think you have to have that for your career. You have to have that for you personally, your relationships, your finances, all of those things.
I completely agree. And it's easy to jump into something without really kind of having that end in mind and knowing what the plan is, and what do we do whenever these emergencies come up. And by planning for them, they no longer become emergencies. They just become roadblocks or hiccups.
Yeah, it's just a diversion. We knew that was going to happen. I like to use the example, Kyle, of, and I probably stole this from somebody, but you want to look like a duck on the water. A duck on the water just looks graceful and beautiful, but underneath the water, the duck's kicking like crazy to stay up, to stay afloat.
Right.
So you just kind of want to be, no big deal. We'll and that happens to me on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Where something doesn't show up like it's supposed to, or something doesn't work out like it's supposed to, and then you deal with those things. You deal with those crises, or those people say fires, or those things that come up. You just got to be smooth and try to take everything with a grace and act like it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
And the ultimate compliment for me, and you go back to that success question, is when you have a transaction or a thing that didn't occur as it was supposed to on your end, you want the customer to not even know that occurred.
Exactly.
You want it to be a smooth transition. And I've had several occasions where the customer doesn't understand all the backroom things that have happened, but yet we still got it produced, or got the documents as we needed, or things have happened along the way, so they don't even, it's a non-event for them.
Right, which is how you want it. That's what keeps them coming back. What kind of resources might you be able to recommend to others, whether it be books or authors or speakers or whatever, that you might be able to recommend to others?
Yeah, I don't do a very good job about reading professionally. However, I think Zig Zigler is for somebody that's going to be involved with customers and some people in my line of work that are always building relationships. Zig Ziglar was one of the best. You can find his books everywhere. I like books by coaches. I've been a coach for several years. As I've grown my career, I've managed to continue to make an opportunity to be a coach, and coaches that you're going to see that they're going to develop a plan and be able to manage people towards a common goal. Mike Sheshefzki, Nick Saban is one that's obviously at the forefront now. Vince Lambarti. Those are authors or books or people that I think you can glean a lot from the sports world that can use in the business world or your personal life. About planning, about coaching, about motivation, about enthusiasm, all those things that tries to get people, to continue on that path to success or that journey of success. I think there's a lot of resources out there that are by anonymous. When you Google a topic or something pops up, it's all, everything's just electronic these days.
Sure,
and, those little anonymous tidbits I think are pretty neat too. Those common sense remarks that just kind of hit home in everyday life.
And it's interesting as you talk about coaches. As you know, I've had the opportunity to coach a little bit as well, and it's interesting to be able to see, especially at these professional levels, when you get those types of athletes together, the difference that one person, and I know the coach isn't just one person because there's a whole staff around that, and and really it's tens, if not hundreds of people that are involved in that.
Oh, sure.
But the way that they can take that talent and what they can do with that talent that another person can't do. You've got the same talent there, but the way that one person is able to lead those people, manage those people, do those things. And I think one of the big lessons for me in that, I used to often say early in my career, I could manage anybody doing anything. It doesn't matter what it is. The industry didn't matter.
Right.
That management and leadership is a craft and a skill in and of itself. And I think coaches, especially at that professional level, are a great example of that. And one experience that I had was when I stepped into a new management role, and one of the employees, it was pretty vocal, and not necessarily in a bad way, but said, "I'm just a little bit concerned. You don't know how to do my job. You don't know what I do and how to do it.
Right.
I don't know how you're going to be able to manage me." And to which I responded something in effect of, "I don't need to know exactly how to do your job. I need to know what we're trying to accomplish and then help you accomplish that." And coaches, and especially at those premier levels, are the perfect example of that, because I don't know a lot of coaches that can go out and be a receiver in the NFL.
Right.
But they know how to get that receiver to do their job.
They can craft a message. They know how to break a skill down.
I know
and
what's
that
expected.
Translates into business.
Absolutely. And to be able to do the same thing with a team of people in a business and in an organization.
And getting the most out of the people on the team. There's guys that maybe aren't the fastest or maybe aren't the strongest or don't hit the hardest, but they have the best motor or they have the most heart.
Right.
Knowing how to get those things out of people.
Yeah.
There's been thousands of athletes that just had all the talent in the world, but just didn't have the heart or didn't have the character to continue to compete.
Yeah.
You know, I use the example with my kids a lot that the things that I'm willing to do, whether it's going to an after-hours meeting or going to an early morning meeting, or you know, those are things that other people in my industry may not be willing to do, and that gives me the competitive advantage.
Right.
I think that's important things that a coach comes up with in their plan. You know, what can I do to set up my team for success by being willing to do things that others aren't willing to do.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's extra study, maybe it's an extra meeting, maybe it's showing up early for something, developing that relationship with somebody. You know, those are some different things that I've tried to do along the way.
Yeah.
And still trying to do.
Yeah.
You know,
every day.
You're no stranger. You know, there's a networking meeting you and I are involved with.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that are willing to make that commitment to be there week in, week out,
right,
early, and to build those relationships and craft. You know, to me, it's more of a professional development thing than it is than a business referral thing. It's knowing how to craft your message and knowing how to what it is you do. What kind of referrals am I looking for? How am I using my time strategically?
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. All great points, and yeah, there's so much that relates to so many aspects of life, whether it be in sports, athletics, extracurricular activities, or business and family.
Right.
There are only really so many skills in life. You just have to figure out where you're going to focus those particular skills, but they all are relatable and transferable.
That's a good point, because not every in business you say you can't be all things to all people. You have to hone in on what it is you do what it is you do well.
Yeah.
I'm never probably going to be a great quarterback. I know that's hard for you to believe, or I'm probably not ever going to throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah.
But I'm really good with people.
Yeah.
I'm really good with developing those relationships. Pretty good. I'm really good handling kind of some adversity and some crazy situations and meeting deadlines. So those are the things that I need to capitalize on.
Right.
Those are the skills that I need to continue to develop and maximize.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Chip, before we close out here, what other kind of advice might you be able to give to professionals out there, people out there that are trying to determine what their success looks like?
I think the first thing is what you just said, trying to determine what their success is. And I think there's probably not enough people that really take time to do that.
Yeah.
I think you need to think about that strategically. And I think that's a good friend of mine once said you need to take time to work on the business instead of in the business.
Right. Yeah.
I think that author of that quote. And, I think that's something that as you have your success journey, how can I think about what I'm doing strategically, whether it's your family and your home life, or it's your professional, your business life, because really they coincide.
Absolutely.
Those are two important things. Think strategically, work on it strategically, work in it strategically, take time to plan, take time for yourself.
Yes.
You've got to be able to unplug and get away. What are your priorities? What are the things that really are important? Focus on those things. What is it that you do better than anybody? And capitalize on that. Don't be afraid to be a success. I think sometimes people have a fear of being successful because then that's expected of them. I've seen that a lot in coaching. So now we screwed up. Now we know that you can do it. Now it's expected.
Right.
So don't be afraid to raise those expectations.
Right. That's a really good point.
So that I'm kind of rambling a little bit here as we conclude, but I think having a plan, being strategic, not being afraid to reinvent yourself. Yeah. Those things we've talked about along the way. Capitalize on your strengths. Work on your weaknesses, because everybody's got them.
Absolutely.
One of the things I think has been important on this last mentor that I mentioned is finding somebody that does the things you don't necessarily do well, and try to learn from them.
Yeah. That's all great information. Spot on. That's really good. I think, and to your point, kind of that first concept, I think sometimes just understanding what success is, because if you don't have a goal, you can't hit the goal. And
right.
This is what success is going to look like for me. Then the decisions that you make are going to move you in that direction.
Yeah.
And then whenever you get to that crossroads, you can kind of make a simple decision. Does it help me towards my goal?
Right.
Or does it not? I think the other thing that's nice about when you define what that is you know whether you're accomplishing it or not.
Right.
And without that definition, you never really know, am I accomplishing anything? And so
you've got that
looks like.
If you've got a measure of some sort,
mm-hmm.
And that's different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a measure, you've got something you can compare to,
right,
in your own personal habits or history,
mm-hmm.
then that gives you something you can always fall back and look at and say, am I moving in the right direction? I like what you said. Is this, if I at that crossroads and if I go left, is that getting me closer to my goal? If I go right, is that getting me closer to my goal? If I go straight,
Yeah, and kind of pushing in that direction. I made a comment yesterday. I was having a conversation with someone, and we had a little drive coming back from Lexington, Kentucky, and we were in the truck, just kind of chatting about a few different things, and he was talking about his son and some expectations that he had in comparison to some other family members, and some expectations they had, and that they were saying, well, these goals aren't realistic. And I made the comment, I said, the best way to be average is to expect average. That's what's going to happen. And so, it's a saying, you put the goal out there. If you want to be great, expect greatness. And so you put the goal out there to say, this is what I want to do. And then whether you're accomplishing that. To your point about the journey, you can start to see that journey.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're just kind of aimlessly wandering. And that's really good. I think those are some great points and some great pointers. I know you've done a great job of balancing work life, which I think is a kind of a misconstrued concept, and I've talked about that on the show a couple of times. But you do a great job of having what most people are going to look at as a successful career, and having a successful home and kids that you love and respect, and love and respect you. And it's a hard thing in today's world to be able to balance all of that and still give back to the community and be involved. So it's really great to see.
My wife and I, we both work. We're both really involved. We're not Fortune 500 CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
We're in there getting our hands dirty.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Fortune 500 CEOs aren't doing that. They are.
Yeah.
But we're regular people.
Right.
We're in there getting our hands dirty at home and in business and in community. We're not afraid to step up and take a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it's really hard to get people to do that.
Yeah.
If something I've said will help somebody, then jump right in there and get your hands dirty. Don't be afraid to take a leadership role in a PTA or a church organization or athletic league or something. And one of the most rewarding things I've ever done on a professional basis was in an athletic league as president of the league. And you're talking about hundreds of individuals involved in this thing, and lots of people doing lots of small things to get to the eventual goal of having a great season. And that was a monumental task to do that. And I'm not sure that I was had the confidence to do it, but there was a leadership opportunity, and I stepped into it. And Kyle, you know what I'm talking about, because you were on that leadership team, and we made some changes and got people behind it and had a great season and had 2 great seasons. And it still continues today.
Yeah.
Take the opportunity, take the risk to step in and see what you can do.
Yeah. The old adage that leadership comes to those who take it is so true. In that.
Totally agree.
And sometimes the best way to learn how to be a leader is to just go out and be a leader.
You jump in the water, they throw you a book, says here's how to swim, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
You just do what you can.
That's good. Well, Chip, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Kyle, thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to be considered, to be interviewed, and be a part of your podcast. And it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for checking out today's Business Playmaker. Links to the resources discussed in today's episode are available in the show notes. For more information and resources from your host, you can visit him at www.kylegorman.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast for the latest episodes. And until next time, make it a great day.